Okay. Well, we're a really small group. Um, I thank you for coming. My name's Mary Beth Phelan. I'm the Vice Chair for Faculty Development at the Medical College of Wisconsin. I'm here with my colleague.
Hi, I'm Amy Zozel. I'm Chief of Medical Toxicology and Professor of Medical College Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I mean, we can keep this somewhat informal because there's so few of us. We don't have any disclosures. Um, Wondering what if everybody here has written a letter for promotion. Okay. If, I don't know. You're a medical student. Okay. Well, welcome. That's great. That's great because part of this, I was even going to leverage how, when you're going up for promotion, how you should present yourself to help letter writers. So great. Right. So Dr. Zols and I have no disclosures, and we're going to kind of break it into two parts. I'm going to talk about the basics of writing a letter, so that might be too basic. If you all have anything to add, please do, people with experience. And then Dr. Zolzel is going to discuss bias in letters. And I was really hoping that we wouldn't need to discuss this, but I'm on our tenure committee, and recently, I mean, there are still very biased letters being written. And I think the more you know about it, especially if you have experience, if you are going to be on a tenure committee, you can really guide the conversation around it. I was the chair of the committee for 2 years, and hearing what you talk about was really helpful in guiding conversation. So, when you start to write a letter for promotion, I will tell you that they mean a lot. They definitely influence the committee's decision, and individuals who are starting out should get feedback from a mentor because um, there is a lot to consider, and these are very important letters. I think the guiding principle is balancing advocacy with authenticity. That's how I look at writing these letters. We've got some great resources. This is a really good one. Of course, I feel like Mike Gottlieb is just writing about everything, everywhere. But is this is a really great step-by-step process. I've added based on my experience, I write probably about 10 of these a year in my role, and I've had quite a bit of experience. So I've made some changes and adaptations. So one is you get an email with a whole bunch of attachments that talk about, the CV, the request for the letter. Hi, welcome, come on in. Um, and the next step is to respond, but I put in a big reflect on there because you really have to think about what kind of letter is this. For some people, they're the head of a division or they're a chair, so they're writing it for someone they know. But Dr. Zozel and I are both on the AWEM Letter Writers Bureau, and I get a lot of requests for arm's length. So people you don't know, and it's a totally different letter to write. Another reflection is, all sorts of things. The institutional priorities. I do a little more research on the candidate, especially if I don't know them. But something else that I would advise people to reflect on, and I see this emerge in the tenure committee meeting, is what are your thoughts about promotion? Are you someone who thinks you have to have a lot of papers to be promotable? Are you someone who thinks that you have to have a lot of individual accomplishments? And are you someone who might less value teamwork? I was just in a promotion committee meeting where a person didn't have a lot of their own grants, but they were on many, many grants because they developed a specific methodology. And how do we hold that value? So I encourage people before you write a letter to think about where you stand on a lot of these issues. Responding, I usually say 2 to 3 days, but I often don't follow my own advice because this is the bottleneck for a lot of the promotion process is getting those referee letters. Um, After your review, if you're not able to write a strong letter, or you have a conflict of interest, or you just have no time, be sure to let them know right away. I frequently ask for extensions, and I've never been told no. Um, this is one thing. Do I don't know how many people put a chair together from a store without reading the instructions. This is not the time to do that. Read all the instructions, read everything, because there's nothing more frustrating than you think you're writing this letter and you go back and realize, oh, I didn't answer any of the questions. I didn't look at any of the information on that. Um, the next step is actually writing the letter. Again, in my role on the tenure committee, especially when I was the chair, I would often have a 100-page dossier so to read, and candidates, and three of them were often going up at once. So when you're writing the letter, optimizing the readability and structure, and this is a nice way to structure it with opening statement, your qualifications, and then the sections that align the candidate's accomplishments with the information that with the criteria for promotion, and finally a conclusion. Dr. Zolzel is going to talk a lot more about this, but a few general considerations. Use a formal title. Again, within the last 6 months, I've seen people referred to, especially female candidates, by their first name. And this person has cured cancer and they're going up for tenure. So refer to them. This should be a very formal letter. This article is a great article that helps elevate language around characteristics that you want to see in someone getting promoted, like leadership, productivity, innovation. The next I'm not going to read all of this at you, but I tend to like to attack the letter in certain sections. So I'll do the opening statement and context first, and then I'll take each section, over a period of time. And the opening statement should really indicate why this person is getting promoted and to what rank, how you're basing your letter. Is this because you're their chair or their division chief, or is it an arm's length letter? And if it's an arm's length letter, often you should definitely explicitly state you don't know the candidate, you've never worked with them, so people know you're judging them really on the impact that they've had in the field. And this is where providing context around why you're the person that's writing the letter. Are you an expert in the same area that they are an expert in as well? I often put in why I'm a good person for this is because I'm in faculty development and I've been on the tenure committee and I've chaired the tenure committee, and just showing them, why maybe I was selected to write that letter. Then the next thing is evaluating the candidate using both objective and subjective data. And the letter's not a place to just repeat what they've done, but you take that objective data, and this is an example of a data abstraction sheet we've used in the past at our department, just trying to quantify the information. And then you need to leverage that using the subjective language. I think you will get all of these slides so that you can take a look at this. But if you look at the areas that I've highlighted here, so this is around education is one example. This is often an area that those letters like to see highlighted. I write that her expertise has built bridges between specialties to ensure that important discoveries from her research are leveraged to impact learners across the entire medical education spectrum. Then I like to take each area of education and break it into local, regional, national. At our institution, one of the reasons maybe the promotion process falls flat or someone doesn't get promoted is there hasn't been enough emphasis on what's gone on outside of the walls of our institution. However, when I'm on these committees, I hear a lot of criticism if there's not enough emphasis on what they've given to their own institution. So it's really about balance. Also talk about any leadership roles they might have and awards that they've received as educators, and then quantify. And this is just one way I quantified without just listing. I also have a small section at the end of each section demonstrating that they've met and exceeded the promotion criteria. Scholarship is another place where we're often asked to write about. And again, what you want to highlight is how her scholarship has impacted the area of their work, and not only for learners, for patient care, but for future research as well. This is an area where I will kind of list a little bit. I'll quantify how many perhaps manuscripts, how many book chapters, etc. And then we'll also then talk about an impact factor. And this is a real person. I mean, they've done all this work and they've been in the New England Journal. She's amazing. But again, to show the committee and for the person who's reviewing them that her research and scholarship has been very impactful. And then This is a great place to incorporate mentorship. Mentorship, if you are someone who has had learners with you on articles or presentations, make sure you tell the committee that and your letter writers that so they can incorporate mentorship into this type of a supportive letter. And then talking about meeting and exceeding the criteria. Rinse and repeat for other areas that the institution is asking you to write about. And then finally, you want a really strong conclusion. You want to say that you enthusiastically support this person. And this is a really important statement that they would meet or exceed the promotion criteria at your own institution. I can't tell you how many times in a committee meeting that we will have a long discussion about why it wasn't put in the letter. And my suspicion is a lot of people don't realize how important that is. Unless you are explicitly asked to not do that. And I've seen some places that are saying, please don't tell us if they would be promoted at your institution. I've had people call me when I didn't write that, like the chair or someone like, why couldn't you write that? And we would have a discussion about that. So just something to keep in mind. These letters take hours to write, so you may want to, I would advise creating a repository of the letters. If the person's in your own department, you can write an award letter for them, a recommendation for a job or for a competitive program using, sort of reusing all the hard work that you have put into this. So for this part, for writing those letters, you really want to adopt that mindset of a neutral but nurturing referee letter writer. Optimize that readability, and really important to use equitable and inclusive language. And I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Zolzol to continue to discuss that.
Thank you, Dr. Phelan. Now that we reviewed an approach to letter writing, I'm going to zoom in and discuss how to avoid gender bias in letter writing and why it's important. So first, I'm just going to offer a definition of unconscious bias. So it is bias in judgment and or behavior that results from subtle cognitive process that often operate at a level below conscious awareness and without intentional control. So we all have some unconscious bias that affects the way we view or perceive people, and it can get in the way when we are describing our colleagues in situations of promotion. So of course, there's many kinds of bias. This is a very brief presentation, so we're just going to focus on gender bias. So you may be aware that since 2018, the AAMC acknowledges that gender equity is a key factor in achieving excellence in academic medicine. However, in spite of increasing numbers of women in the field, women receive proportionately less recognition through honors, speaking invitations, and awards in their men counterparts. And this has been described in our very own emergency medicine literature. It has also been shown that women and men are written about differently in evaluations and recommendations letters. For example, men tend to be described as brilliant, where women are more commonly referred to as good team players. And we have been called to action. So thank you for taking that call and thank you for being here. There's a call for universal multi-level efforts needed to more effectively advance the careers of medical women faculty and support gender equity. So this brings us to recognizing the importance of gender schemas. So these have been described in the 1990s by Dr. Valerian as a set of implicit or unconscious hypotheses about sex differences that play a central role in shaping men's and women's professional lives. So they affect our expectations of both men and women, our evaluations of their work, and their performance as professionals. So children really learn about what it looks like or means to be male and female and their cultures they grow up in and carry that forward throughout their lives. And how does this affect our letters? How does it impact letters of recommendation? Well, one study of over 300 letters of recommendation for medical faculty for promotion at one American medical school found the most common semantically grouped possessive phrases referring to female and male applicants really do reinforce gender schema that tend to portray women as teachers and educators and men as researchers and professionals. Authors noted that the differences in letters for males and females are really the characteristics and adjectives used to describe the individuals, even when the CVs are very similar. So this group found that they listed a list of descriptors and nouns that were associated with males and females. and found that accomplishment and achievement was in 13% of the letters for men and only 3% of the letters written for women, whereas compassionate and relates well to others was found in 16% of letters for women and 4% for men. So these terms really accord with the gender schemas that see men more as successful and women more as nurturing. And it is notable when candidates are really, they're all meeting the criteria for promotion for the most part if they're being put up, and they often have several similar credentials, experience, and accomplishments. So these studies illustrate some important points. Physicians are often described with either agentic or communal characteristics. Agentic characteristics are descriptions of assertiveness, of confidence, of independence, such as successful in treating patients, where communal characteristics are more descriptors of sympathy, sensitivity, and nurturance, like compassionate, caring physician. And we do see in the data that in the literature that males do tend to be described more with agentic characteristics and women with communal. Further notable are the use of ability and grindstone words. So ability words are used to describe how a candidate is without any effort on their part. So really innate qualities, talented, intelligent, capable, excellent are all agentic words, where grindstone words are used to describe the ability of the candidate through the effort that they put into their job. So careful, hardworking would be examples of grindstone words. In one study, grindstone words were 50% more common in letters of recommendation written for females. And while I would argue that hardworking is a great characteristic, I think it's wonderful to be hardworking. It could be inferred that if there's enough grindstone words used, that an individual is hardworking to compensate for a lack of ability. So now that we've gone through some of the differences between the letters that we've noticed, we can apply some knowledge to mitigate bias. So use titles. So as Dr. Phelan had mentioned, it's much more common in the workplace and in letters of recommendation for first names to be used for women, where men are more often referred to as Dr. So-and-so. And so we really need to kind of elevate the women's credentials as well and use titles. Avoid gendered adjectives. Just keep in mind those agentic versus communal kind of stereotypes, ability versus grindstone words. And then, avoid unnecessarily invoking any kind of stereotypes. Really showcase the accomplishments of that candidate with their achievements, staying on point in their achievements in research, patient care, teaching, service, and their rankings. In one of the prior studies, 24% of letters of rec for women, 24% of them had at least one doubt raiser in the letter, and these are letters for promotion, and 12% for men. So it is important to avoid doubt raisers because it really makes you think, like, so these are actually examples from letters in our institution. So avoid negative language, like somewhat challenging personality. We can all be a bit challenging sometimes, but it doesn't really, we still have our accomplishments and our achievements, and that's what we're being promoted on, not that we can sometimes be challenging. Potentially negative, so responds well to feedback, like, why did you say that? Do they need extra feedback? These kind of raise doubts. Don't hedge. Appears that the health and personal life are stable. Are we trying to skirt around something negative here? Avoid faint praise. Worked hard on projects accepted. Well, did they complete the projects? Was there an outcome? I want to know these things. And then is a Packers fan? Totally irrelevant. I would avoid that. Reader may infer that there might not be more substantive data for the patient, so avoid that. So here's some tools to avoid gender bias. So you can simply substitute a pronoun. Like if you have finished a letter of recommendation for a female, for example, maybe just read it out loud and use male pronouns. And if it sounds weird, like maybe you just want to neutralize that a little bit. And we'll talk a little bit about how to use ChatGPT and a gender bias calculator. I'm going to give you guys like 30 seconds. We have like a 10-minute cushion here, but 30 seconds. So this is actually not an actual letter, but I did write this based on, pulled out some things I'd seen in other letters in our rank and tenure committee received. And I'll just let you shout out if we're a small group. Is there anything that might seem biased here? Thank you. What's it? Julie instead of Dr. Jones. Mm-hmm.
Meaningful contributions, you might otherwise say, contributions with impact or
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Yeah, you've nailed some of the important ones. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Like she gets back to me. Okay, great. Like how many papers has she written, right? So I asked ChatGPT, and I was very grateful and pleased that ChatGPT agreed this was biased, and also kind of listed out, pointed out the things that I thought were biased about the letter. So like number one, use of subjective and informal or personal traits. So lovely, like you mentioned that, great. These are descriptors more frequently used for women than men, and really unintentionally diminish qualifications potentially. Mentioning family status. So in spite of 2 kids, she's okay. These comments are not usually made for men and can really reinforce gender expectations about balancing work and family. And then 3, gendered role modeling. So the last sentence, like, she is an excellent role model for other females. Well, it would be stronger to state that she's an excellent mentor to junior faculty or residents, right? So just kind of they give you a nice summary at the bottom. Whoever chat, and then they asked me, "Do you want me to rewrite this for you?" Which that was pretty good. There's a gender bias calculator that I've used before, actually before ChatGPT came out, I think. And you can scan it, and here's the website. But you can actually plug in a letter or a paragraph, and it'll give you your female associated words versus the male associated words. You can just kind of check yourself for balance and make any adjustments as needed. So just kind of in summary here. Words to use. So really try to stick with the standout words. Excellent. And again, balancing authenticity. We want to be absolutely authentic, but there are absolutely things to be highlighted about this candidate if they're going up for promotion, right? So excellent, superb, outstanding, unique, exceptional. Ability words. Use capable, competent, talented, intelligent. These are more descriptive and more important than lovely when it comes to a promotion. Potentially avoid the grindstone words. Again, hardworking is great, but we don't want to create any doubt. We don't want to imply that they might have to be hardworking to overcome a lack of ability. And then teaching words. So if this individual has amazing educational impact, definitely say that, but we don't want to unnecessarily stereotype the woman as being more of the teacher, student role instead of the professional or researcher role. So thank you so much. Any questions, comments? Discussion.
Yeah. What is everybody? I mean, it's really listening to Amy. It just put me in a totally different space on these committees to draw out to people like, do we find this language not really in line with what we're seeing on the CD?
Want to look at all the letters I've written. How often did I do that?
Well, I've done that.
Oh,
Yeah.
everybody does it, right?
I've done, even though I talk about this, I will write something unintentionally, and put it into to check it. I'm like, oh, I'm aware and I'm biased. So it's just we all are. Yeah. Yes. Mhm. 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 It's a great point. Thank you. Yeah, that's really important. It's nice to refer. And then, have you heard of the AWEM, the Academy of Women Academic Emergency Medicine, has a letters writing bureau? So, like, we have volunteered to write letters, like arm's length letters for people that that need them, and it's a great group of people that really want to promote others and SAEM. So, yeah.
If you're a chair or a leader looking for letters, go to AWEL, and they have a bureau. Yeah.
All right.
I really liked your suggestion of
Mm-hmm.
And also thank you for articulating that these committees want to see meets or exceeds the criteria for promotion at your own hospital. I too had the experience of having written what I thought was just basically a glowing letter for someone I did not know, and then getting an email back saying like, hey, can you add this addendum that says like would get promoted at your own facility? And it didn't, because I have seen other institutions that say don't put that in there.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Just that's
I
like
didn't know that
reading
was
it.
sort of an expectation, and maybe damning if it's not in there.
It really causes a lot of discussion, and because I was the chair for 2 years, and because I've been doing this type of thing for a few years, I have that background to go, hey, I don't know that we should put that much stock in it, especially if we have all this other material. So they're not getting promoted here. I mean, they're getting promoted here, not somewhere else.
Yeah.
Which then is another even bigger reason to be strategic about picking your record letter writers.
Yeah.
Like, I can't pick somebody from Harvard.